Hello and welcome to our sessions on cost and management accounting. In this session we will try to understand absorption rates. When we talk about absorption, we are talking about the overheads. We know the total cost is equal to the prime cost plus overheads, and overheads are required to be allocated, apportionment and then absorbed. So this is called overhead accounting. Since the overheads cannot be directly identified with the product or service, so they go through the process of allocation, apportionment and absorption. There are different methods of absorption rates. So let us first understand what are the three R's, three A's. Allocation. Some exclusive overheads are generally allocated over the cost center. If a particular department or a cost center requires a service of a particular overhead, then that overhead is allocated to that. However, there are several overheads which are common to several cost centers, maybe rent, utilities, computer department services. Those common overheads are apportioned over the cost center. So exclusive overheads are allocated and common overheads are apportioned over the center. So by allocation and apportionment, we bring all the overheads to the various cost center, and from this cost center we allocate that overheads over the cost units, where you try to recover the cost by fixing a price. So overhead accounting involves allocation, apportionment and absorption. The overhead absorption depends on the rate at which they are generally absorbed, or they are generally called applied. Normally overheads are applied at a predetermined rate because you want to forecast the cost, you want to predetermine the cost, you want to prepare budgeted cost sheets. So therefore you need absorption rates at the beginning of the process itself. And the absorption rate, as we mentioned, is the rate at which overheads are applied to the product or services. And this absorption rate depends on the nature of the expenses and the purpose of determining the cost. We'll elaborate that as we move along through the sessions. So normally absorption rate is determined by dividing budgeted overheads over or by the budgeted cost driver. So this is what we wanted to mention. The cost driver depends on the nature of the business and nature of the expenses. So these overhead absorption rates can be determined either by using input, which are called input based absorption rates, or can be output based, so output based absorption rate, or maybe activity based absorption rate. So let us see input based absorption rates. The common absorption rate input based are direct labor hour rate. So manufacturing overheads, if it are predominantly labor driven, then they are absorbed by using the labor hours as the driver. So you get direct labor hour rate. But if you see that manufacturing overheads are driven by the machine cost, so in that case it is better not to use the labor hours but use the machine hours, then you get machine hour rate. Sometimes it is also calculated as a percentage of the direct labor cost. So absorption rate based on input, common ones are direct labor rate, machine hour rate, or a percentage of labor cost. But if it is output based, yes, sometimes it depends on the volume of production. So it is not just labor or a machine, but the volume of production. In that case, the absorption rate will be manufacturing overheads divided by the volume of output. So in this case, the output of the production is taken as a basis for determining the overhead absorption rate. And more comprehensive sometime is not to use the volume of input or volume of output, but take the drivers, the activities which drive the production process. So then that becomes activity-based absorption rates. So you can have activity absorption rate or output-based absorption rate or input-based absorption rates. Let us take a small example to understand this. So this is the cost information given. But what we would like to observe that independent of the methods of absorption, the rate of absorption, the total cost should be same in principle. So we'll find the cost of total cost or the product cost, which is direct material plus the direct overheads, so direct labor. Okay, so direct labor and manufacturing overheads. In this case, we found the manufacturing overhead by using labor hour rate. So direct material 40,000, direct labor 20,000, and manufacturing overhead absorbed by using labor hour rate and the labor hours. So how did we calculate this? Where was this rate come from? This was budgeted, okay? And so the total manufacturing cost or product cost will be 100,000. So in this case, the overheads have been absorbed by using the labor hour rate. Whereas it is also possible to find the overheads, manufacturing overheads, by using machine hour rates. Okay, so by using machine hour rates. So in this case, the overheads are determined by using machine hours into the machine hour rate. But observe, the amount of overheads is same. The absorption rates are different. The absorption rates are different because we use the basis to be different. We can also find the product cost by using percentage of labor cost. Okay, we can use the percentage of labor cost. So in this case, the overheads are determined by using 200 percentage of the labor cost. So therefore, the product cost is 100,000, which consists of material, labor, and manufacturing overheads. And let us find the absorb the overheads on the basis of the per unit. Okay, so on the basis of the per unit of output. So the per unit of output is equal to 400 and output is 100, so therefore 40,000. So what did we see here? That whether the overheads are absorbed on the basis of volume or on the basis of input based volume or based on output based volume, the overheads, the total overheads, normally it's same. But it's possible that the actual overheads may not be equal to the budgeted overheads. So there is a possibility of over-absorption and under-absorption, which we'll see in the next presentation. So in this presentation, we try to understand that there are different absorption rates, and the absorption rate depends on the basis, and the basis can be input based or output based or activity based. However, whatever is the basis, the overheads, the total amount charged to the allocated to the or applied should be same. I say because this is budgeted, but the actual may be different from this budget. Thank you very much.